welcome to another episode of Inside Line. This time round, we're talking to World Endurance Champion Sylvain Guintoli. Sylvain, the last time we spoke, we discussed your role as the development rider within the MotoGP team, and you went on to rather good things in winning the title that same year. Now, continuing the theme with that World Championship success, as I've just said, you're the World Endurance Champion. Now, you're back from Le Mans, where you won for the second time in a row, the 24-hour race. To me, and I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of thousands of people, that is, racing a motorbike for a whole day, and night, of course, is a pretty crazy thing to do. Would you agree? What's involved? Tell me.
Yeah, 100%. It's something really extreme. I always wanted to do it because I think it's part of the French racing culture as well. You know, this endurance in Le Mans, in Boulder, so you get those big races. And I didn't really have a clue. I did a few endurance races before, 8 hours in Suzuka in Qatar. But 24 hours is something absolutely bonkers. Yeah.
All right. What are the challenges on the face of it? Just, staying fit, staying awake. How do you prepare for something like that?
Yeah, you can't really prepare. I mean, the first 24 hours of Le Mans I tried to ask, my teammates and the team, obviously, that has a lot of experience, Team Sir, about advices and what's going to happen. But really, you can't be prepared for it. It's so hard. Like you said, you can't sleep, or very little anyway. And you shouldn't sleep. If you sleep too much, it's not good either. And the physical challenge, the fight as well. I think mentally that you have to be so switched on all the time, not to make any mistakes, but also keeping going with the lap times. It's a huge challenge, physically and mentally, yeah.
Okay, I mean, when does it start hurting? Is it just a few hours into the race?
Yeah, it's pretty much straight away. Because you got, the endurance now is not, let's say, an endurance pace, as in like where you take it easy and trying to manage the bike. And I mean, the bike is strong and can take abuse for 24 hours. So do the tires. So basically, it's like a sprint race, but for 24 hours. So you get your 1 hour relay, 2 hours rest, 1 hour relay, and it just never stops. And you got to attack all the way.
So you are going, as soon as you get on that bike, you're going flat out until the next pit stop.
Yeah, basically the format now of the endurance races is everybody goes as fast as possible, especially in the first, say, half of the race. And then there's always a lot of, it's a bit of a carnage, lots of damage, people crashing, people pushing the bikes too much, the bikes breaking. And then after, say, like 12 hours, you can maybe start to, if you're in front, a long way in front, you can start to manage and pace yourself. But most of it is flat out.
Now, very much a team sport, I would think. You're one of 3 riders, am I right?
Yes, that's it, yeah.
Okay, couple of things. Do you feel a great responsibility for getting a good result, not just for Suzuki, but to the other riders as well? You don't want to lose the team time in terms of a crash or a breakdown due to some sort of riding abuse for the sake of those other 2 guys. I mean, is there a real bond between you?
Yes. So compared to sprint race, you still, MotoGP, World Superbike, BSB, you still have, a team spirit and a team. It's a team effort. But the endurance is more. It's very much more of a team effort because you go through the same, super hard race. You go through the same battles, the same difficulty, and you all share that. And when you bring it, to the end of the race all together, it's a great feeling because it's so hard. It's like anything in life, I think. It's not just bike racing. When something is hard to get and you have to work hard for it, when you finally get it, it feels better. And the harder it is, the better it feels.
So it must be super rewarding when you just get to the end of a 24-hour race, never mind win it.
Yeah, it's quite emotional because as well, you're physically, you're very, very tired. So there is not much more you can give at that point. So yes, and like I said, everybody goes through it all together. So the mechanics, they don't sleep because they have to be on alert if something goes wrong. Obviously, they do all the pit stops as well. They have to be on point with that because every pit stop is important, adds up to the time at the end. So team effort, very, very hard. And when you bring it home at the end on the top step, it's a great feeling.
I mean, is that unlike the finish of any other race in that regard, the level of reward should you have got a good result?
For me, yes. It's one of the strongest feelings I've ever had, after a good result because of that, because it's so hard.
Okay, so you've done the prep, the team's at the race, you begin at 3 p.m. Who goes first? Do you ever start?
I've not started yet because within the team we've got Greg Black, so one of my teammates that is very good at starting. He's a specialist at the start. He's very, very quick running to the bike, and he's got very good technique, starting the bike and doing the clutch. So he always does the first relays. He's comfortable with this, and it's his thing. So normally I go in second or third. Last time in Le Mans I went in third, so 5 o'clock start for me.
What's that like, waiting for your turn to come round then? Is that really quite, a tense time for you?
Yeah,
just waiting to go.
I mean, you go through the starting procedure with him. We're all together on the grid, so we have those words together, and we are in the same boat. So it's quite a nice feeling as well to see that my two teammates riding. I enjoy watching the race unfold as well, and the battles they can have on track. There's different dynamics all the time on the track. So yeah, it's tense, but it's also really good fun to actually enjoy the race.
Okay, though, you start at 5. Is a stint typically about an hour until the fuel runs out, and then you pit and change riders? What do you do when you've finished your turn at about 6 p.m. then? Do you go and rest, or are you simply waiting to go again at that time of the race?
No, you debrief quickly. Normally there's maybe a couple of interviews with the TV as well, straight away, live TV as you give the bike back, as you go in the pits. And then after that, it's a question of getting changed really quickly, quick shower, managing so I've got somebody with me, a friend of mine, Bruno Vecchioni, that comes with me at the track and helps me with all the equipment as well, because you have to get your kit off. You're obviously the suits are really wet, and we got special dryers. Get the helmets ready for the next stint as well. Choose the right visors and stuff like that. So he's in charge of that. And then once I'm changed and showered, I just go and you got to try and rehydrate, eat something in between the relays as well. We've got physio as well that stays with us during the 24 hours. So we've got some kind of like a routine basically. Obviously in the first relays, you're not too tired, so you don't want to sleep. But then as the night goes on, you get more and more and more tired. You don't really want to eat anything. You get this feeling where your body's getting a proper workout. And the role of the physio then is more and more important.
And do you have to force yourself to sort of stick to this regime? I mean, what's it like having to eat rather at 2, 3, 4 a.m. when you don't fancy it?
Yeah, you've got it. I mean, you are hungry because you are, doing an effort, like a 1 hour effort. So you're always thirsty and kind of like want something. You got to be careful not to overeat as well, because if you do that, you're not going to feel comfortable with your stomach. So you got to go like step by step and try not to, if you don't eat anything, the next relay, you're going to really go deep into the reserves, and that's not good either.
Sure.
So you got to try and stay settled, keep your energy levels, keep your spirit, high, and try and be balanced for the 24 hours.
When does it start becoming even more challenging then? Is it in the early hours when you really do, want to just have a breather, man, and go to sleep like everyone else?
Yeah, I'd say the worst time of the race is about 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. You're tired and it's cold normally, within the relays, or in between, when you walk around from the motorhome to the physio, and you just feel like you just want to go to bed. And there's still a long way to go. There's almost like you've only done about half the race. So at that point, normally, if you see your teammates, because we see each other, and again, like crossing paths at the physio, and we're always like, guys, why are we doing this for?
Yeah.
Why are we here? But then it all makes sense, when you bring it home after. So you got different phases during the race like that, where you just have to surf the wave, and try and motivate each other.
All right, talk to me about those sort of emotional phases. What dictates when you start feeling a bit down or when you get back up to become enthusiastic to ride again? What's governing the mood?
Well, probably tiredness. You do get like the body goes through quite a lot because riding those superbikes for an hour is really tiring. Some races sometimes are very hot as well, so you get really dehydrated. So physically, that's going to have an impact, and that will mentally then eventually make you feel not so great. So that's why you got to keep on top of the fueling and the hydrating. And I think it's just like physiological as well. When your body just wants to sleep. Another like important moment, for example, is when the sun comes out. When the sun comes out, if that's during your relay, you actually find some energy that you didn't know was there. So the sun is coming out.
You're solar powered then?
Well, I think we all are, because from talking with the different riders, everybody feels a bit the same. So sun comes up and you get that energy burst, and suddenly that's it, you're on it again, and you forget about the feelings that you had a couple hours before.
How do you fight that mental toughness that makes you want to, I don't know, I'm sure you're tempted to just pull in and just say enough, when times are tough, how do you get through that stage?
Well, it's like we discussed before, it's a team effort. So you don't want to let anybody down. You don't want to let yourself down as well. And, the eyes are still very much on the prize. We want to bring the bike home, and we want to win. So there's never really, questioning like, I don't want to do it anymore or anything like that. It's just basically you get this moment where it's quite hard, and you have to push yourself to still do the good lap times and still, stay very much focused, because as well, if you don't do that, you're going to lose concentration. You might make a mistake, because during the race, especially as the race goes on, there's big differences, of speed on the track. So you got to be very careful not to make a mistake with the other riders as well.
I mean, does it get monotonous after a while, just lapping again and again and again, just trying to get to 3 p.m. the next day?
You kind of like focus on your lap time or on the dynamic of the race. Like, for example, last time in Le Mans, we had the Yamaha was not too far behind all race. So we were trying to control the gap. So the big thing there during the relay was to control the gap and try and keep it stable without making any mistakes, without losing too much time overtaking the guys when you lap them. So yeah, you keep your focus with the lap time. This is what we are at the end of the day. Riders are lap time machines, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So if you do that, and you're always obviously in contact with the outside world, with your pit board, so you can see your gap, you can see your position, and that's what motivates me anyway.
Is that the only form of communication you've got then, the pit board and then the debriefs? Are you absolutely aware of the position that you're in every time you get on the bike, and then thereafter you just get pit boards to update you on where you are? And more to the point, how well do you know about the progress of other teams?
Yeah, you have your pit board. So normally, let's say in Le Mans, like we were in front, the Yamaha behind, we were kind of made aware every lap what the gap was, and the instruction was to keep the gap as big as possible. Well, not lose time on them, because then if they start coming back, they start hopping, and that's not good. So we wanted to keep them at bay as much as we could. So yeah, we are aware of that. And before the relay, obviously you have a really good understanding of how the race is going. You know who you're going to be racing against as well, which guy is going to be against you during your relay, how they are doing with the fuel strategies and stuff like that. So we know as well if we've got an advantage or a disadvantage with having to refuel the bike before the end of the race. So yeah, we know exactly what goes on. Yeah.
Now, this is the question I've wanted to ask more than any. What on earth is it like racing at 160, 170 miles an hour at night? I mean, can you see where you're going?
Not really. You can't. You don't see very well because the track is lit, kind of, but it's not really bright. I mean, it's not like, for example, a MotoGP edition in Qatar, where the track is actually like a football stadium, where it's like full light, and it actually feels like the day. This is very, very little lighting. And the lights of the bikes as well, they are like standard lights. So the LED, they're very good, but they light in the front. So, and most of the time when you're racing, you're like this, you're looking there because that's where you want to go, but the light is showing there, which is not great. So you can't really see a lot. You can see the red lights of the guys that you're catching, and sometimes you're catching them really fast, so you gotta be careful not to get caught with this. And sometimes it's all a little bit of a blur because you're tired as well. There's loads of bikes and loads going on. So no, the answer to the question is you don't see much, and you just have to keep your references, especially the braking points, is really important. And then you kind of do like things, I'd say, automatically. Lap times in night actually are quite fast because grip is quite good, and the engines are faster when it's a bit colder.
Surely you must face some hazards. You've already mentioned the fact that the closing speed on some of the slower riders can be quite frightening, can't it?
Yeah.
You know, you can see the red light and then suddenly you're on it. What about wildlife and other sorts of stuff that you just come across, you know, without warning in the middle of the night?
Yeah, I've not come across anything like that yet. Sometime you come across, in Le Mans this year, we had the public was back, and the very famous or infamous like fires they do around the track. Sometimes you get the smoke onto the track, and that was quite scary. So sometimes you can't really see if they're burning tires. You get in the corners and you can't really see what's going on, and it stinks. And you've got we've had flares. One flare was thrown onto the track on really like next to the track in turn 6 during the night. I wasn't riding at the time, but that can be a bit scary as well. So yeah, you got to be on the money. You got to be really like aware and stay focused and be ready for any kind of eventuality as well, because people crash. There's lots of flags, safety cars coming on, engine blow up. So you got to be very, very careful with this as well. You know, if there's like an old speed age or anything. By the way, this year in Le Mans, there was quite a few, and the ACO, so the guys that look after us from Le Mans, did an absolutely brilliant job with managing with that, clearing the track, cleaning it, and yeah, great team.
I mean, does any other race, a normal MotoGP race, for instance, seem really quite conventional and sort of slightly dull by comparison?
It's different. It's just different. I mean, the level of safety is still very good with the endurance. The marshals and the way they do is absolutely fantastic. So in that respect, that's very similar. But because of the length of the race, obviously you get different aspects like engine blowing up, and because not every engine goes 24 hours. I'm not sure how many, but during the race you are going to get people breaking the engine. You are going to get more crashes, obviously, because of the time that everybody spends on track. There's going to be some collisions, so yeah, it can be a bit of a carnage.
Is there a particularly risky period in the race where crashes are more likely to occur then, or blow-ups as well?
Well, starts are quite risky because there's a lot of people starting. I think in Le Mans there was more than 60 bikes, so a lot of people, and we do that standing start. There was actually a crash with Bradley Smith. Fortunately, he wasn't too injured, but the starts normally is quite wild, and during the race, I'd say now it's pretty much risky all the way through.
Have you ever fallen during a 24-hour race?
24, no, but I did crash in the 12 hours of Estoril last year. So yeah, can happen, unfortunately, because the pace is high, so you got to push. And that can happen.
And what are the options if you fall? If you're near enough to the pit, do you push back, or is it generally race over?
No, so you can bring the bike back. So in Estoril, it was only a small crash, so I restarted it and brought it back, and there wasn't much damage, so we were able to restart quite fast. The team as well, very, very efficient at repairing whatever needs to be repaired. But it depends. I mean, if the bike is totaled and you can't push it back, there's also now it's allowed to call for a van. A van comes and picks you up, brings you back to your team, and the mechanics are allowed to fix the bike and restart. You're going to lose a lot of time, but it is allowed, and you're still in the race. Or if the bike doesn't restart, you're not too far, you're allowed to push it as well. But the pushing bit, I had to do that a bit in Le Mans because I ran out of fuel. In the the last edition, not nice. They're very heavy.
How far did you have to push back?
I was lucky because I've run out of fuel just at the pit entry, so I only had to push like 200 meters. But the pit lane, I found out, was uphill.
Yeah. Any strong words from anyone in the pit?
No. It just happened. It was just a bit of a something that not malfunction, but it was something that anyway could have been avoided. But in the end, we got away lightly, and I had to do quite a bit of a sprint. Yeah.
Every time you come in, what occurs then? Fuel, tyres?
Yeah.
Brake pads, are they ever fitted new brake pads?
So fuel is, every time 24 liters.
Yep.
The first thing they do as you come in, they scoop the bike up as you're still on the bike, and then you get off straight away. They change the tires. Tires is like 3 to 4 seconds to do both tires. And then the long bit is the fuel, because they're not allowed to do it together. So once the tires are clear, they fuel the bike. Overall, with tires and the fuel, it's about 13 to 15 seconds. The whole pit stop before you can restart, the next lap restart. The brakes, so they don't change the pads, they change the calipers with the pads inside, because it's much quicker. They have like quick release, whatever it's called.
It's a dry brake, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dry joint. Yeah.
So they do that, and they do the calipers in about 25 seconds, I believe. So it's very, very fast. And I think they changed that 2-3 times during 24 hours.
What else? I mean, are you putting oil in the motor? Are you adjusting change?
They only top up the oil. So we start with 3 liters, I believe, and they just top it up and again in the race, but not much actually. So the 3 liters that's at the start does the whole race. So it's quite impressive, you know, from Motul and the oil that has to go the distance, and the engines, they are being like absolutely fresh, because we do not, you know, try and save the engine. We just go as fast as we can all the time at the limiter. So yeah, quite solid the thing is.
Is the spec of the bike very similar to a World Superbike spec GSXR 1000?
Yeah, rule book is very similar. So electronics, we have exactly the same as what's used in World Superbike, even though Suzuki hasn't got a World Superbike bike. That's what it would have if it did. And then the spec of our bike is full factory. So we have all the factory parts. Some bits are special to endurance because, well, for example, the tank with the double entry, so the tank is a bit bigger. And also, in some ways, Team Sir has brought some different stuff about eventual crashes. So the bike is not fragile. I mean, the GSXR is quite solid anyway. So, but there is like some tricks that they do to make the bike, like say, a little bit crushable. So it's easy to, you know, to fix it, or anyway, fast to fix in case of a problem.
Why is the GSXR still competitive, do you think?
Well, because it's just a good bike. Yeah. I mean, engine-wise, it's very fast. We have a really strong engine. It's been reliable, and Team Cert as well is very good at managing all the pit stops, the race strategy. So it's a great bike. And with the Bridgestone tires, so since last year, we use the Bridgestone tires that are absolutely brilliant for the endurance. They're great tires. In the dry, but also in the wet, the performance is very good because of that.
What's it like racing at night when it's absolutely chucking it down and getting a bit chilly then? I mean, is that hard on the mind?
Yeah.
Does it become a job ever?
Well, we had in Boldor last year, it started to rain actually, I think it's 3 times. So we started to have rain during the dry stint. So it's night, you can't see much. And you start to see the spots, quite a lot of spots on the helmet. You're with slicks. The track temperature is not great, and that's let's say that's lively, because you also have to make a decision. Is there enough water? Is it going to rain more? Should I pit in, like break my relay to go and put the wet tires? It's the rider that makes the call as well. When we go from slicks to wets, it's the rider that assesses this. So you don't want to get that wrong, because an extra pit stop is a minute and a half lost. It can be a bit hairy. That's the worst condition. I hate it when that happens. You will be doing 24 hours, sometime being able to make the call and assess the conditions and go from dry to wet or wet to dry.
Do you feel the bike changing quite a bit during your session when those 24 litres go down to almost nothing, or in your case, to nothing on that particular occasion? and the tyres are starting to go off, does the bike start feeling like a different animal towards the end of your own session?
Yeah, you feel, especially the fuel load, because that's it's about, I think it's about 18 kilos of fuel, the 24 liters. So you do feel that, even though it's low, it's low down. In the tank is like underneath you, basically, like a MotoGP tank. You feel this. Tire wise, not so much, because the Bridgestones are so good at like consistency. We can get the performance, in the last laps. Some of the races last year, we did the best times in Mossy. The last race, for example, I did the best time of our whole race in the last lap of the race, with the tires being like 38 or 39 laps. So yeah, it's just a fuel load.
I was going to say, are you gaining from the reduced weight, the fuel?
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Well, like in any kind of motorsport, less weight is better.
How long to recover from a 24-hour race? You'll know you've done it. And let's face it, you don't just not sleep for the 24-hour period. What time do you get up on the day of the race? About 7, 8 o'clock?
Yeah, there's that.
So you've got loads of hours before the race begins, and I bet you're so hyper afterwards that you can't go straight. Well, you don't get the opportunity to go to bed, do you?
So we last year, for example, we experienced twice different setup for the 24 hours. Le Mans last year was 12 o'clock start, which was great, because you wake up 6, 7 in the morning, have the warm up, and then 12 o'clock the start. You go until 12 o'clock the next day, and you kind of like, it goes fast in the morning. But the normal time to start is 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that makes a huge difference, because you still woke up at 6, 7, you do your warm up at 9, but the race start is at 3, and then you go all the way to 3 o'clock the next day, and those 3 hours makes it a lot harder. This year you always have the thing where we won the race, we're gonna have a party, and guess what happens after 2 beers? Everybody's asleep.
Yeah, I bet. Speaking of that sleeping, do you get any in reality?
Yeah, you get little. You get, for me anyway, I sleep very little. I just sleep when I'm with the physio. I always ask him to wake me up after, like, say, 15 minutes max. Because if I sleep more than that, it doesn't suit me at all. So I suppose it depends,
Okay, so you have a power nap.
Yeah.
But you'll probably still have 2 hours to go before you get back on the bike. Do you have 2 or 3 power naps during your window of rest?
No, you'd be surprised how quick it goes, because you finish a relay. By the time you debriefed a bit and you get changed and you have a shower, that's already probably 20 minutes, half an hour gone. Then you go try and have some food and some drinks or whatever. That's like an hour. Then you go maybe half an hour with physio, and you got to get changed quite a bit before it's time for your relay, because you got to be in the box, say, 6, 7 laps before it's actually time, because you can't just turn up at the last second. So you got to get changed again, make sure you're in the pit box, put your arm, we got like special armbands, there's different colors for the riders. So you got to make sure you got that on, because otherwise that's a penalty. And make sure everything is fine. So you actually don't get much time at all to rest. If you get 45 minutes, it's a maximum.
It sounds as though it's a really intense experience, even when you're not riding.
It is, yeah.
Would it be fair to describe endurance races as a bit crazy? Have you got to be certified to want to do it in the first place? Because it doesn't appeal to me. I'm stressed just listening to your tales of, being flat out and intense.
It is. During those 2 hours that supposedly you got off, you got to be careful not to waste time, like not talk to too many people, not let your guard down, because otherwise it will go before you even know. It goes really, really fast. So you got to stay focused. And the endurance bit, yeah, it's mad. For me, what attracts me to it is the challenge. It's because it's so hard, and I like that in life. Anything that's hard, anything that is difficult to achieve, it's just such a goal, And if you manage to do it, maybe you don't, but if you do, it feels absolutely brilliant. So endurance, it's a really, really hard challenge.
Okay, that's very admirable, but at any point during the event, are you enjoying it? Or are you just too busy trying to achieve the goal to actually enjoy it?
You enjoy it when it's finished and you've won.
Yeah.
That's when you enjoy it.
Yeah. But at no time, is there no time to simply reflect on how good, bad or indifferent it is? Are you just focused on achieving the task?
No, you're focused. You only enjoy it at the end if you've won. That's where the enjoyment is. Like any really tough challenge, you can't enjoy it. You got to be stuck in. You got to be focused, and it's not about enjoying. It's about winning. So when you do it, that's when you enjoy it.
Are there any times when you truly hate it?
Yeah,
Reasonably often.
yeah, because it's hard. Your body is destroyed. Your mind is playing tricks on you. So yeah.
Expand upon that. What do you mean by that?
Well, you got to dig deep because your body doesn't want to do it at some point, and your mind doesn't want to do it either. So you gotta dig deep and focus on the prize.
Is that the biggest challenge then? Sort of just trying to defeat that negativity and reduce desire to continue.
Yeah. It's one of it's the big challenge, and you've gotta have like that team spirit that helps, and we help each other. You know, we talk to each other. We do during the night. We talk to each other with the team. We have we all have the moments of, you know, not doubts, but moments where you're really, you know, in like deep. So yeah, it's not easy.
You don't say. Will you continue to do it for as long as you can then? Do you see yourself doing it for a few more seasons yet?
I don't know. I mean, at the moment, it's gone much better than I expected. I thought, you know, that we will take some time to dial in and understand the race, and then we ended up winning the first race last year in Le Mans, winning the World Championship last year, winning in Bordeaux as well, which was one of my main objectives, and then we've won Le Mans again this year. So we just have to carry on. It's a great team. We're having some great moments all together, and it's working well. But the future, we just don't know. We'll see.
Are you a much better endurance rider now for all the experience you've had than you were when you first began?
Well, I did an endurance race back with CERT as well, with Suzuki CERT, back in 2010. It was only 8 hours in Doha. That was my first endurance race. And it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. We won the race, and they won the championship, actually. It was the last race of the year. They needed to win the championship. So it was a good challenge and a very positive first taste for me for the endurance. But 24 hours, it's something completely different.
Do you take any members of your family, or are they effectively, as with everything else, just shut off so you can concentrate on achieving this goal?
They were with me this edition because I was away doing the coverage for BT Sport in Argentina and Texas. So I've been away already 2 weeks. So all my family came to Le Mans. We met in Le Mans. I didn't have time to come home, so I went straight away from Texas to Le Mans. So we spent a week together, which was great, and they were there at the end of the race. So it was a good moment.
You probably didn't talk to them at all during the race itself, did you?
Yeah, during the race, my two big girls, they stayed at the track with me for the full 24 hours. They said they were not going to sleep and help and be supporting the whole race, but by 2 o'clock in the morning, they were actually in my bed, so I couldn't sleep myself.
Ever had any DNFs in endurance racing where you've not made it to the end?
No. Did we 8 hours Suzuka? No, I think we always finished. So yeah, it's been ups and downs. Couple of crashes. I remember I crashed once in Suzuka as we were on the podium position or something, and then one crash last year in Estoril, but we still managed to bring that home. So yeah, that's endurance as well. You know, a lot can happen. But so far, no, it's been great.
Now, you've just won Le Mans, but your next one is at a very famous venue at Spa.
Yeah.
Excited about that?
Yeah, mega. It's going to be great. And we've got Xavier Simeon as one of my teammates. So he's a good mate, and also he's from Belgium. And for him, it's like I think we're all going to race for him at that race because it's his national race. He's in his GP career, he never got the chance to represent his country at home because there was no race in Belgium. So for him, it's like a big event, and I hope we can bring the victory for him. It'd be great, and it's a fantastic track anyway. I know it from going there, racing there when I was back in the French Championships a long time ago. But I'm sure it'd be a great event.
What's the toughest of all the endurance races? Is it Suzuka?
Suzuka is tough. Let's say they're all tough for different reasons. Suzuka is very hard because of the heat and the humidity, so you get very, very dehydrated, and the last 15 to 20 minutes of the run is quite physically difficult because of the dehydration and the overheating. You can ask any rider that's done it. The last 15 minutes is an absolute nightmare. But it's a short race, 8 hours. You only get like 2-3 relays.
That's short, is it?
Well, when you've done 24, 8 hours feels like...
Does it feel like a breeze then, relatively
Yeah,
speaking, right?
yeah. Well, last year when we did Bol d'Or 24 hours, and then the next race was Mossy 6 hours, it felt like it finished before it even started.
Less rewarding because of that, do you think? Because it's relatively easier and shorter?
Oh, in that case, no, because we put it on the podium, and that's the race where we won the title. So we're actually quite happy not to be too tired, so we could party properly after. So it was great.
Was winning the World Endurance Championship as rewarding as winning the World Superbike Championship?
Different experience.
Yep.
It was very different. Winning the World Superbike Championship was great as well because of the way it was set up, and obviously it was a massive goal of mine when I started this championship, and then I needed to win the last races to win the title. My family was there, and I won the last two, did the double. So it was that was a very, very special moment, obviously, in my career. But the endurance is it's just something different, and I really, really enjoyed it as well, but in a different way.
Are you surprised that you've learned to love endurance racing?
I didn't know what to expect, so I'm not really surprised. I was probably a little bit shocked on how hard it actually is. I thought it was not going to be like that. I didn't realize basically what I was going into. But in the end, I'm quite pleased it is that hard because it's been a fantastic experience, and winning it has just made everything feel great.
That was probably one of my most interesting chats to a racer. I mean, there is a lot to learn and a lot not to envy you for there, I think. I mean, I think I remain with the judgment that you've got to be a bit crazy to go endurance racing.
Yeah, but you got to be crazy to race bikes to start with anyway. So this is just like next level.
When you say next level, I think you should be pointing up here. But look, thanks for giving us an insight. That was really enjoyable. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Join us next time for the next episode of Inside Line.